in the night, your heart fills with dread. Probably a murderer who wants you dead. It could be a ghost, a demon, or worse. Perhaps you're the victim of a witch's curse. It's hopeless, you're doomed. You'd call a priest if you could. You'd rather just listen to who? Sinisterhood. Hello and welcome to another edition of Freaky Friday, where we tell your odd but true stories. And if you can believe it, we are in month 8 of 2024.
I just spit all over myself. Because you don't hear people usually refer to time in that manner. But I like that. We're in month 8 of the year of 2024. 8 of 12.
We made it. We crossed the threshold of July. I hope wherever you're at, if you're on the other side of the world, you're staying warm. But if you're on our side of the world, you're not sunburned, that you're nice and no head cold anymore. How are you feeling?
I'm feeling better. Thank you. I was under the weather, so thank you for steering the ship in my absence. But I'm feeling better now. So thank you very much.
Absolutely. Well, you have to feel better because we're about to go out of town next week. We were just saying right before we hit go that we got to get our bags packed because next week on August 6th, we're going to be in Kansas City. And on August 7th, we're going to be in Oklahoma City. So if you're in either of those places or you've ever visited there and you're like, oh my gosh, you can't miss blank, send it to sinisterhoodpodcast@gmail.com because we want to check it out. Something weird, delicious food, a cool place to go shop.
Yeah.
Send it to us. But we're not just going there to visit, although we will enjoy our visit.
A one-day trip to Kansas City and Oklahoma City just to visit, and then it's just a little staycation. No, we are doing a show while we're there.
Yes.
All for our Full Moon Energy show. It's not a show we release on the feed. It's all live, baby.
Yeah. All about the darker side of the moon, what it does to us, what lurks up there, and what people really happened. And what people really think happened during the Apollo missions. And by people, we mean the people that were up there. So the actual astronauts. We cover it all.
We cover it all. It's everything that you love and we love about doing the show, but it's all focused around that big, beautiful bitch up in the sky.
Hey, bitch, we love you, and we're doing a show about you. Like I said, Kansas City, August 6th, Oklahoma City, August 7th, and then San Diego, Phoenix, and Las Vegas in September, and we're ending it here in Dallas, and we've heard a ton of people are coming in from out of town for the Dallas show, and that's when we will retire Full Moon Energy. So come out and see us in our hometown in Dallas on October 17th.
Well, in the meantime, we've got quite a lineup today with
so many.
I don't want to spoil anything, but we have a celebrity submission today. So
one of my favorite storytellers that I've ever had stories told to me by wrote in, and I'm so excited. Yeah.
One of the two stories that launched Freaky Friday into existence, my wonderful father-in-law, George Brown, who gave us this idea, has submitted a story. So we saved it for the very end.
Enjoy the wonderful storytelling skills of George Brown. I only wish he was here to tell you all in person because I will not be able to do it justice, but we'll do our best. Absolutely. But before that, we've got a lineup.
There's some heavy hitters in this one. I was like, gosh, we got half of these with the content warning. So we'll be sure to give you a heads up. But I'm Christy.
I'm Heather.
And let's get freaky. This first one is from Janie, and it is called My Uncle Was a Demon. Ladies, thank you for making this podcast. I look forward to every new episode because your wit and friendship is such a ray of sunshine in an otherwise dull drive to work or getting ready in the morning. Thank you for all that you do. My Freaky Friday story is 100% genuine and true. There are years to unpack, and I can't include everything here, but I'll try my best to make it as compact as possible. I grew up calling Carl my uncle. You can use real names, as he's super dead now, thank God. In short, my mother and another woman, my, quote, aunt, were best friends through high school. At 18, this other woman married a man in his 40s, Carl. This was his second marriage, her first. My real uncle would later tell me about one evening when Carl came to visit my mother while she was living at home. My grandparents had forbidden my mother from hanging around Carl as he was bad news, so Carl decided to pay them a visit. My real uncle and mother were at home with my grandparents finishing dinner when Carl knocked on the door. He had blood smeared all over his white work shirt when he barged into their living room, shotgun in hand. He was insistent my mother come with him, and my sweet little grandparents were terrified. My real uncle threatened him and ordered him out of the house, but Carl said he would kill him just like the other man he just killed if my uncle left that house to follow him. My mother then happily moved out and lived with Carl and her best friend. She felt stifled by her parents and felt special in Carl's presence. To him, she was really something. Shortly thereafter, my mother started working as a checkout girl in Carl's gas station in Ohio, where my would-be father would regularly grab lunch and a few things for the week. A year or two later, my would-be father and mother were married. Carl told both my mother and my aunt that he was an angel of God. He could make inexplicable things happen. He had an explosive temper, and he could, quote, read your future and tell you which option was your best outcome. He explained that he was sent here by God to help those with a, quote, angel gene, reference Genesis's fallen angels. He explained that he was sent here by God to help those with an angel gene, reference Genesis's fallen angels, through life. Unfortunately for my dad, he did not have the, quote, angel gene. So my mother was under strict instructions to never tell him about who Carl really was. My dad was 100% in the dark their entire marriage, and even up until his death from cancer in 2011. When Carl insisted his family, they now had 2 daughters, and my family, I was 1 and my sister was 3, moved from Ohio to Missouri because there was about to be a nuclear war and Missouri was protected by energy poles. My mother immediately planned the move, and my father just kind of went along with it. He was a sweet, passive man who didn't have many friends or family support. He left his job making great money, he was a Snap-on dealer, to follow my mother and us to Missouri. It was during this time that the bills stacked up. My dad couldn't find work in Missouri, we hadn't sold the home in Ohio yet, and we ate a lot of chips and cereal for dinner. My mother didn't want to go back to work, so she sold Avon door to door. This lasted until I was 7 when my parents got a divorce. My dad got a job in St. Louis as a mechanic working nights and weekends to make the most money. My mother refused to allow us to follow him because, nuclear bombs he couldn't know about. I guess she was fine yeeting him into death so long as she could still be in Carl's good favor, with me as a sacrificial lamb. Coincidentally, this was when Carl started pulling me into his basement to talk to me alone about my angel gene. My sister, now 9, did not seem to have this gene, so she wasn't allowed to know anything we discussed in our, quote, meetings. Sorry for all the air quotes, but it's so crazy that it helps to use his words. All the typical cult stuff would be discussed. Aliens, infinite future possibilities of who I would marry, past lives, you name it. I even once asked him if he was born an angel and if he always knew he was an angel. No, actually, he said. Then continued, I saw a little boy who was about 3 years old and decided to step into his body. I then grew up in that family. I wasn't born. The big revelation that my mother really loved was that I was John Lennon reincarnated. This made her feel really special in life, to be the mother of John Lennon, so she forced me into learning the piano so I could channel my past life. All this while I wasn't allowed to tell a soul, or demons would find Carl and kill him. Not to worry, though, as there would be a replacement angel, should he inevitably pass, that would come and continue his good work in the family. As you can imagine, this started carving a deep problem of building connections with others and also further widened the gap between my sister and I. My mother would always point out how special I was to have these meetings with Carl and how my sister was not invited. Understandably, my sister grew to hate me. Flash forward years later, I'd have enough of the meetings and the constant fear of doing something Carl disagreed with. 16-year-old who speeds? Talk to Carl. Boy troubles? Talk to Carl. Giving my mother attitude? Talk to Carl. Every behavioral correction was made by Carl. By the time I was in my teens, he was frequently calling to say that I was such a nasty teen that my guardian angels wanted nothing to do with me, and I had no heavenly protection. I was on my own. This all from the mouth of an angel of God. In hindsight, I was a good kid, despite the craziness at home. I was first chair flute for 4 years running. Fuck the piano. Never snuck out, never did drugs, never snuck around with boys. Just had a chip on my shoulder for the injustice of what was going on that I could never talk about, or Carl would die. I will never forget waking up for high school one morning after having an incredibly vivid nightmare. Someone had cut my throat from behind, and I could feel the warm blood flowing down my neck and chest. I couldn't breathe or scream. I woke up in a manic sweat and ran to tell my mother about my nightmare. She told me to immediately call Carl to see what it meant. He picked up on the first ring and said, "I knew I'd get your attention." It was this moment that I realized he was no angel, but a demon. As the next years passed, I was largely disconnected from the family, even though I was still living at home and going to college while working full-time. Carl got so frustrated that I was disconnecting with him that he called me for what would be our last meeting. He was angry. He felt disrespected. He told me that he could see my future, and if I didn't change my ways, it would come to pass. He said that he could see me driving with my future children in the back seat, and I would get in a car accident. The last thing I would hear would be my children screaming as they burned alive. If I came back into the fold, he could change that story and make it so it would never happen. This was my final straw. I stormed out of that basement and never went back until he was dead 4 years later. During that time, I was beginning to open up to my trusted friends about my childhood. "Hey, is it normal to talk about aliens with an angel of God? Do you know an angel of God? Oh, that's not a thing?" You get it. My mother called me as I was leaving the gym one morning to say Carl was dying. He had been diagnosed with brain cancer and was in his final moments. Yep, me telling people that he thought he was an angel of God finally made the demons find him and kill him, screeched my mother. Before anyone says the brain cancer was the reason he was the way that he was, he'd been spitting crazy since the 60s, so no grace there. I took the longest way possible back to that basement and walked in to see he was already dead. Thank God. The craziest part is his family was all around him, including my mother, and they were waiting for his replacement to walk in the door. After hospice took his body, they waited in the basement for 4 days. Nobody ever came. They still live in that home. It's been a hell of a journey between then and now. I came to know who Jesus really is. I've been in intensive therapy for 7 years now and have grown to understand this happened to me, but it doesn't define me. I was able to reconnect with my dad when he called to say he was diagnosed with stage 4 cancer. My mother had successfully kept us apart until I got the courage to drive to his home and asked him his side of the story. We didn't have a lot of time, and I asked him not to protect me anymore. He shared his memories, we told each other I love you, and it was my honor to help care for him until he passed away a few weeks later. I haven't spoken to my mother or sister since I started therapy, and I'm healthier for it. I opened a small business 5 years ago, been happily married for almost 15 years, and have 3 amazing, hilarious kids. The mantra in our house, we keep surprises, not secrets. Thank you for reading this long email. Even if you don't share it with your listeners, being able to openly tell someone besides my husband or therapist what I've been through is hugely cathartic. If a little girl can make it through this hot mess express of a childhood and end up on the other side, you can make it through anything. Special shout out to my therapist, Ginger. Everyone needs a Ginger.
Well, shout out to Ginger, but shout out to Janie. Oh my goodness. Well, thank you for taking the time to write this all out for us. And what a tale it is. That is such a manipulative, a 40-year-old man snatching up 2 18-year-olds.
Oh, yikes.
First of all, and then everything that came after.
Yeah, you were basically growing up in a cult, albeit,
Many.
a small one. Yeah, a cult doesn't have to be a huge group of people. I mean, it could be a family.
Yeah, he's got 2 followers there. The sisters,
yeah,
the
it sounds
best
like
friend.
he sounds like he's got his whole family if they're all there waiting for him
To come
and
back.
his replacement after he died. So to me, it sounds like maybe they were all part of a cult that, you know, they all believe the same thing and he was kind of at the helm of it. I'm glad that y'all all got out of it. I hope your mom did eventually. I know you don't have contact with her. And sometimes, as hard as it is, that's what you got to do to move on with your own life and heal.
Yeah, I mean, especially if it's going to be, I've moved on from this, and clearly, at least his family, if they still live in that home, you know, it's like, well, we can't sell the house. What if he comes back in through this door? You know, somebody is living on a different plane of reality. You can't, you know, make that connection. It's so hard when you see in retrospect how people's lives are taken from them by these charismatic people, whether it is a cult leader as big as like Chuck Dederich and Synanon, and it's like thousands and thousands of people, or even just a handful of people. That is still, you know, Janie's relationship with her sister is changed forever by this. But I appreciate that sentiment of, it happened to me, but I'm not defined by it. Like I have, it's something that I can take from and learn from and share with other people and use it to hopefully, and, you know, inspire my kids or change the way I parent. Like we don't keep secrets. We keep surprises. Like you've told me that, you know, surprises are fine.
Yeah, we don't keep secrets in our house. That's kind of our mantra too. And I'm very proud of you. 7 years of intensive therapy is exhausting, but it's clearly you've done the work and you're seeing the payoff now. And I hope you just continue on that healing journey. And everyone does need a ginger. Mine is named Tara. Yours is named
Nikki.
So just go find your ginger, Tara or Nikki.
Yeah, and they'll help you walk through it. Today we were just talking, and then she was like nodding, and then I talked myself into something, and then she was like nodding bigger, and I was like, you know, I love that feedback. But yeah, I appreciate you taking the time to share this, because that is a deep, you know, that's a deep wound that lasts a long time. But like Christy said, it sounds like you're working through it. Yeah, so thank you for sharing.
Yes.
Sinisterhood will be right back. Helix Sleep is a premium mattress brand that provides tailored mattresses based on your unique sleep preferences. Whenever I talk to like my doctor, my chiropractor, they'll be like, well, how are you sleeping? I'm always like, that's on luck, because I have a Helix. So like, we're good on that. It's not sleep, I'll tell you.
Oh man. I was just laying in bed last night, like, God damn, this is comfortable. Like, it's just like, I am so comfortable right now. This really is like the most comfortable mattress. Like, I'm not just getting paid to say this. Like, I legitimately believe this.
I was sitting on the couch and I was like, I have to go read stuff for the show. Why am I not laying in the bed? And I just went and laid in bed. It's that comfortable.
All the time. Yes. The Helix lineup offers 20 unique mattresses, including a mattress designed for big and tall sleepers, and even a mattress made just for kids. Ella has one, and we all love it. It's like, if you got to lay with your kid at night, you may as well be comfortable. And the Helix Kids mattress is just that.
Plus, Helix knows there's no better way to test out a new mattress than by sleeping on it in your own home. That's why they offer a 100-night trial and a 10 to 15-year warranty for you and your child to try out your new Helix mattresses.
Every body is unique, so whether you're a side, back, or stomach sleeper, or all of the above, Helix offers a mattress for you. Plus, they have enhanced cooling features that help regulate your body temperature, whatever the season.
The setup was fast and easy. Helix mattresses are delivered in a box straight to your door for free. By supporting Helix, don't forget, you're allowing them to support us and our show.
Helix is offering 25% off all mattress orders and 2 free pillows for our listeners. Go to helixsleep.com/creepy. That's helixsleep.com/creepy. This is their best offer yet, and it won't last long. With Helix, better sleep starts now. Well, speaking of cults, this next one is from Jessica, and it is called My Mom Joined a Cult Twice. In content warning, there's a brief mention of child sexual abuse. Hello, ladies. First things first, thank you for being you. You're lovely humans, my weekly companions, and a downright treat. I've seen you twice now in the rowdy Raleigh crowd, and both shows were a blast. Hurry back. Now, let's get into it. My mom. How to put this? She's led a life, and there are so many stories I can share. But recently, I was listening to Freaky Friday episode 95, In one of the stories recounted the author's parents meeting in a cult, which reminded me of my free-spirited mom and her stint with a cult in her late teens. It was 1972. Weeks after graduating from her oppressive Catholic high school, my mom turned 18 and did what anyone in her position would do. She hitchhiked from Indiana to Texas to join the Children of God. I don't think you guys have covered this cult yet, so here's a little background. The Children of God was founded in 1968 by David Berg. It's perhaps most famous for being the cult River and Joaquin Phoenix grew up in, at least until their parents figured out how screwed up it was and ran for the hills. Originally called Teens for Christ, they essentially wanted to bring 60s-era music and free love to Christianity, thus my mother's interest. They believed in group living and eventually had communes across the world. As it grew, David Berg took to calling himself Moses David and regularly sent, quote, Mo letters out to his followers to convey his teachings. My mom still has a couple of these buried in her closet. One infamous Mo letter spoke about flirty fishing, in which Moses David encouraged female followers to use sex to recruit more male members. As you can imagine, and this train is never late, there was rampant sexual abuse within the cult. David Berg himself has been accused of abusing his own daughters and granddaughters. Stories from survivors are harrowing. But this was all news to my mom when I stumbled on stories about the Children of God many years after she left the cult. It wasn't a secret growing up that Mom had spent a year or two with a cult. I just thought it was a quirky thing my mom did when she was young, like burning her bra, which she actually did. It wasn't until I was older and developed an interest in documentaries and true crime that I came to understand the reality of this cult, and eventually my mom did as well. But before that, she truly only had good memories of her time with them. She talked about passing out Bibles at the airport, singing and playing music into the night, and their weird communal closet in the attic. I've talked to my mom about the cult a lot over the years, but our latest conversation blew me away. We were chatting about when she left. Mom had been with the cult for maybe a year. Moses David had started preaching about moving the communes outside the U.S. because of all the raids from parents wanting to rescue their children. My mom remembers these raids. Desperate parents would hire people to kidnap and deprogram their kids, and the cult was feeling the pressure. Mom's commune within the cult planned to leave Texas for Central America and told all their followers to go home, spend time with family, and then meet back up with the cult. Tragically, while my mom was home, her older brother was killed in a drunk driving accident. She rightly stayed home to mourn instead of meeting the cult. This is where the story always ended before, but this time my mom kept going. She described how weird it was to be home. She couldn't relate to anyone. Beyond the overwhelming grief of losing her brother, she almost felt like she didn't speak the same language anymore. So after a few months, she said she was ready to go back to the cult. This was a new part of the story for me. I interrupted. Wait, you went back? You rejoined the cult? She said, yeah, one of my friends in Indiana was headed back and asked if I wanted a ride, and I said yes. What? At this point, I was on the edge of my seat. Did you go to Central America? I asked. No, they still had a house in Texas, so we went there, my mom said. How long did you stay? What happened? I asked. At this point, my mom seemed to check out for a moment. I don't know how to describe it. She just looked off into space for a couple seconds. And then she said, that's odd. I don't really remember. I guess I only stayed a short time and then came back home. At this point, I was basically clutching the edge of my seat to stay on it. She doesn't remember? What happened? Did the cult send her off on some clandestine secret mission and then wipe away her memory? Who is this mystery friend that gave her a ride? Did he do something? Was it the endless cloud of marijuana that confused her memory? Or something more nefarious? Aliens? Sadly, I doubt we'll ever know. Mom seems entirely content to laugh it off. What we do know is that she landed back at my grandparents' house a couple months later, done with the cult and ready to move on. That was it. The Children of God, now known as the Family International, is still active today under the leadership of David Berg's widow, and still pieces of shit, allegedly. My mom, however, is pretty great. After the cult, she joined a band with a guy named Fuzzbucket and traveled around Kentucky in a van for a while. Naturally. And then did a few other random things before settling into nursing school and family life. While I'd never call her normal, I doubt many would guess she was once flirty fishing for Moses David in a Texas airport. But what do you guys think happened in that second trip around the culty sun? Thanks for reading and keep it creepy, Jessica.
Well, Jessica, I think our reaction would be the same as yours. It's one thing to kind of know and be like, oh, that's like a weird thing I did once. But to go back, that's a great question. Who is this friend? Is it somebody, not just another member, but somebody that was trying to like get members to come back?
I don't know. We have not covered this cult, and we will not cover this cult. I'm very familiar with it, and honestly, it's probably in the top 3, in my opinion, of the worst cults that have ever existed because of the accepted and encouraged systematic sexual abuse.
Yeah, it was part of it. It wasn't
children.
happening. It shouldn't have been happening. It was part of the yeah. So it's like we can't.
It was encouraged. Yeah. I mean, I don't know if it's still operating. How much has it changed? But it was very encouraged and normalized and horrific. And the stories of survivors are very harrowing. One documentary in particular was followed the life of one of David Berg's sons, and up until the point where he completed suicide. Wow. And just the trauma that he experienced growing up in that place. And I'm glad that your mom seems to not have any recollection of anything like that.
Yeah,
personally would probably go to therapy and process all that and see if some stuff came up.
Yeah, figure out what you don't remember, because it's like something might be in there that you just don't remember. But it makes me think of, people that on the Synanon Fix documentary on Max who were like, it was they were a little bit further the other way of like, it was the best thing and it changed my life. But there were people that were like, it was fine. It was fine. We all lived together. Nothing weird. And I was thinking when we were reading this story, it's so eerie when you have a cult like this that was much larger than the one we just read before about Carl and just, the couple family members, where it is plausible that there are like low-ranking people that just sort of wandered in that have no idea that they're like, oh yeah, I'll go to the airport and like, wink at a couple of dudes to try to get him to come join this, not thinking, oh, I'm actually supporting this like huge, large thing. You're just like, it's a fun thing to do after high school. Like what, you couldn't Google them back then. You're just like, I heard about this place in Texas. It sounds kind of cool.
Yep. And, that's how they get you, as we say. They suck you in. And I think, probably in most cults, there are obviously different levels of people, ranks and whatnot. There might be some that just pass through and it isn't like super traumatic or, it's just like, that was a weird thing I did. And then there's others that, it destroyed their entire life. So I'm glad your mom is content to laugh it off. I hope that it's not a form of
coping
avoidance. Yeah. Or just like not wanting to, because even if you didn't experience anything, being there and now knowing what you know in hindsight and what was clearly going on around you, probably with people that you interacted with, that's still very traumatic and something that even if you didn't like firsthand experience it, it's still very impactful.
That's a good point too. It's like, even if you didn't see it happen, if you looked into it later and it's like, oh, I was part of that and perpetuated that could be a form of, deep-seated guilt or something that you would want to kind of go, oh, no, I forgot. I don't think about it. And to be fair, this person sounds, the same age as my mom. So it's kind of, our parents have lived super long lives. Once you're in your 70s, sometimes you have that, well, I don't want to think about it anymore. But you know what? We all have stuff that we can go through whenever. There's no time limit on dealing with stuff. So
crazy that this cult's still around. Yeah. Fuck that, man.
When I'm like, just because you changed the name, we know
don't rebrand. Just dissolve. God.
Yeah. We know it's you, but that is one of those things where it's like there's always a new person born in every minute that's willing to join in, I guess, because otherwise it wouldn't still be around.
Yeah. Unfortunately, a lot of those kids were born into that cult as well. Well, thank you so much for sending that in and sharing your mom's story with us, Jessica.
Sinisterhood will be right back. This show is sponsored by BetterHelp. I'll tell you what, I have gotten in a great habit doing my BetterHelp therapy weekly, and I really don't skip it even when we're traveling or out of town. I always find as soon as I get back, because of course, I don't do it out of state. As soon as I get back, I schedule it right when I'm available. And luckily we can message through the portal. So it's easy to like swap things around and be like, I know we meet on Mondays. Can I meet you on Thursdays? Because I can't skip. I can't skip talking to Nikki.
No, message through the portal was a great Sting song also. But when your schedule is packed, it's easy to let your priorities slip. Even when we know what makes us happy, sometimes it's just hard to make time for it.
But when you feel like you have no time for yourself, non-negotiables like therapy are more important than ever. And in fact, therapy with my BetterHelp therapist helped me ingratiate another non-negotiable, which has become some form of physical activity every day. Like I realized with my ADHD that I am much better suited to tackle the day. And I was waiting till the afternoon. And it was just, I had all these weird internal rules that I hadn't talked about with anyone. And it wasn't until I talked it out with my therapist that I realized I can deal with it better now. And now I'm feeling better.
Because you go outside, get some vitamin D, and just move your body around. Yeah.
Endorphins, dopamine. Yeah. And I get to listen to good music while I do it. It's a win all around. Absolutely. But I would not have thought to do that without my therapist.
Well, if you're thinking of starting therapy, give BetterHelp a try.
BetterHelp is convenient, flexible, affordable, and entirely online. Just fill out a brief questionnaire to get matched with a licensed therapist and switch therapists anytime for no additional charge.
Stop comparing and start focusing with BetterHelp. Visit BetterHelp.com/sinister today to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/sinister. Well, this next one is from Luna, and it is called My Fugly 2000s Nails Saved My Life. And content warning, graphic description of an attack in this one. Hi, ladies. Love you. The story takes place in 2006. For the listeners who cannot remember 2006, the fashion trends were very unfortunate. Everyone had duck nails, sharp acrylic tip nails that taper outwards, like the foot of a duck. This is important, I promise. In 2006, I was a 21-year-old college student in Arizona. My apartment was a 5-minute bike ride from a grocery store, and I would regularly ride my bike, no helmet of course, to the store. Let me set the scene. It was 11 p.m. I had the munchies, my roommate wasn't home, and there were no chips or candy in the apartment. I made the 21-year-old decision to ride my bike in the dark in a bad side of town, all alone. I very clearly remember my outfit. Sophie shorts with a flip phone in the waistband, a zebra print tank top, and skater shoes. My nails were the epic 2000s acrylic duck tip monstrosities. They were huge. Also zebra print with hot pink accents. They were practically unbreakable and, in retrospect, very ugly. On this night, in my extremely 2000s outfit, I rode to the store with no incident. I got my candy and chips and walked back to the bike rack. The next thing I knew, I was on the ground with blurry vision and a headache. As I came around fully, I realized I was being dragged by the feet. I smelled something horrible, like pee, poop, vinegar, feet, and body odor. I then understood what had happened. An unhoused man had hit me over the head while I was unlocking my bike and was now dragging me around the back of the building. I went absolutely feral. There was no way I was going to die and let this man take my munchies. With crazy 21-year-old adrenaline strength, I kicked my legs and was able to stand. I went completely crazy, punching, pulling, scratching, spitting, and biting. I went looking for every vulnerable bit that man had. I learned what the backside of an eyeball felt like that night. When he finally stopped trying to subdue me, he ran away, and I didn't follow him. I spit his blood out of my mouth, found my flip phone, and called 911. When I picked up my phone, I saw I had strips of skin hanging from my still intact fingernails. Not one nail had broken in the struggle. When I say I had strips of skin on my nails, I'm not exaggerating. It looked like little bits of bloody ribbon dangling from under my nails. I clearly remember pulling one that must have been 3 inches long from my ring finger. I still can't eat fruit by the foot, tragically. I waited an hour for the police to show, but they didn't. Instead of doing something smart and responsible, I rode my bike home. I washed my bloody hands, I ate some chips, then called my roommate to come home. We went to the ER to see if I had a concussion. Spoiler, I had a concussion. In retrospect, I should not have been as nonchalant as I was. I have no idea if the police ever arrived, or if they found the certainly injured man. I simply got tired of waiting and left. And that, my friends, is how my Fugly 2000s nails saved my life. I also have a wild desert cryptid story and have been successfully kidnapped. If this one gets read, I'll most definitely send in the others. Thanks for reading and spreading the trauma. Stay creepy and stay safe.
I very much remember those nails. I also remember that
They made a comeback.
Oh, yeah. People, if you Google them, there's stuff you can buy right now on Amazon, like press-on versions or like, yeah, they're back. But I remember the zebra print hot pink combo that I had like a dress that was like zebra print across the bust and then a hot pink tie under. I had a lot of things that were zebra print hot pink, and I very much remember 2000s to 2006 to 2010. That was the combo. But these nails, they should come back because they're like personal defense weapons, apparently.
Dude, they are. I have gotten on nail TikTok, and
you have.
It's like ASMR to watch people like do their crazy long nails, and they're so creative, like the gel nails and everything. But I think they could take out somebody that was trying to attack you. And I say, when you're you fuck around, you find out. So if you... It's game over.
Rock.
If you're dragging me around the back of a building, I'm going to do whatever I got to do. And if that means just figuring out what the back of an eyeball feels like, that's how my night's going to go.
Sorry you're finna get fruit by the footed, sir, but don't fuck around. Like you said, don't bring a rock to a nail fight. So we learned that night those duck nails are ugly in two ways because they will ugly you up. They both by having them on your hand and being shredded by them. Yeah. But I like that term feral. When it was like, when you're getting sucker punched, you didn't do shit. Somebody's just fucking with you, coming up behind you. That's the answer. Turn around and go feral. And I like that, you know what? We play the hand we're dealt, and the hands you were dealt were lethal weapons. Sounds like.
Shame on the police for not showing up within an hour. I mean, that seems like a pretty emergent situation. And
yes,
also don't blame yourself for going home and being like nonchalant because you had a concussion and you also went through a very traumatic event. So we're not thinking with clear heads in those moments.
You can't think with a clear head.
No.
Because you were bashed with a rock. But that mad respect for being able to ride the bike home. You're just in shock, right? Your body's like, I've done this before. I can go have my Doritos until my friend comes home. And then finally you get to the ER and you're like, oh my God, what happened to me?
Yeah.
But Sophie shorts rolled up with a flip phone in them. Girl, you speaking my language.
I don't remember putting the flip phone in them. I do remember having those. They were like, when I was little, we called them wind shorts.
These were the ones I'm thinking of are almost like borderline polyester. They're like, cheerleaders would wear them or they had like, and then when you folded them up, they weren't like whooshy material. They were, like thicker fabric, almost like jersey material, but not shiny. And then they had like, when you folded them up, there was like white elastic in the waistband. And then the girls would always like fold them up to make them real short.
Oh yeah, I was
cheerleader shorts.
This was I was out of college by this point, but there were shorts very much like this when I was even in middle school, and I remember rolling those bitches up
because they'd be like, get them for your PE uniform, and then we would like wear them on off days too. And in the PE uniform, they'd be like, put your fingertips down, and the rest of the time we're like, I'm gonna shove this up my ass as far as it'll go.
Yeah, truly. Well, very glad that you stayed safe, and Luna, you're a warrior.
You're a hero for sure. Sinisterhood will be right back. Well, this next one's from my daughter, Anonymous, and the subject line is, the time someone threatened to kill me. Hi, ladies. I never thought I had any stories to share, but I was listening to a recent Freaky Friday episode, and you asked for customer service stories. I think the real ask was for hotel customer service stories, but that sparked my memory for this. My story takes place in a hospital in Northeast Kansas during the pandemic. The pandemic started my freshman year of college, and we all had to move out of the dorms and back home. I went to a small private school out of state, and my school was pretty sure we were going to be back face-to-face by the next August, which we were. So I was looking for a job during the first pandemic summer because I was bored in my house and wanted to make some money. I applied to be a door screener at the previously mentioned hospital. While it wasn't my first choice, it was difficult to find a summer-only job during the middle of a pandemic. By June, I was working as a door screener at the hospital. This meant that I had the lovely job of taking everyone's temperatures, asking them all of the screening questions. Yes, I had them all memorized because I asked them literally thousands of times a day, forcing people to wear masks, and turning people away due to very strict COVID policies. This job was one of the most challenging I have ever had because 1, policies changed daily, and 2, I had to deal with some very difficult people. I had to tell people they couldn't visit their loved ones in the hospital if they weren't on the approved visitor list. I had to turn people away that just needed to use the restroom, etc. What a draining job. Thankfully, we had 4 to 6 screeners at the hospital at one time during most of the day, so I had backup and people to commiserate with. We also had hospital security officers that were with us 24/7. These officers would rotate every few hours, and it was always nice getting to talk to them in our less busy periods of time. This particular day, it was very hot outside, so a lot of people were trying to get inside, and we had to make them go outside because of COVID. I happened to be sitting at the desk that was nearest the front door of the hospital, which meant I had the pleasure of screening the most patients, visitors, staff, vendors, etc. 2 women came in the doors and up to my desk. I asked them who they were there to visit. They told me they were there to visit their mother, so I looked her up by last name. Except she wasn't on the list. I also looked by date of birth and by room number. She wasn't on my list, which I told them. They were getting progressively angrier, insisting she was in our hospital. One of them said, "She came here in a helicopter last night because she was shot. I was with her. I know she's here." Now, when people mention trauma events like a shooting, it prompts the screener to perhaps think about looking on the DNR, Do Not Report list. So I looked. Sure enough, she was there. But a screener has to be very careful with DNRs because the whole purpose for being a DNR is to ensure that no one knows they're at the hospital. The process for DNR patients was to ask the visitors their names. If their names were not on the list, we were supposed to encourage them to call the other hospitals, call their loved one to find out where they were, etc. I know it sounds like a really awful process. It feels wrong lying to a sick patient's family member, but that's how we protect our patients. The patient is supposed to let anyone who will be visiting know that they can get on the approved visitor list and not have this be an issue. So, back to the quickly escalating situation. The visitors' names were not on the patient's approved list, so I had to turn them away. Except they wouldn't leave, which I understand, but I was also starting to feel increasingly uncomfortable because I was just doing my job. By this point, they were both yelling at me and demanding that I let them through. I insisted that they were not allowed. They were cussing at me, calling me racist, and getting in my face by leaning over my desk. The security officer was de-escalating another situation at that point, so he wasn't listening or offering help to me. We had a lot of angry people come through on a daily basis. And that's when I heard her say it. "Well, you're pissing me off, so I'm just going to shoot you," she said. I froze. Me, a 19-year-old female, just threatened to be killed for doing her job. I didn't know what to say. I just stared ahead. I'm sure my jaw dropped. I'll never forget those words. I understood her being upset, but that's never an excuse to threaten someone's life. She did have bags in her hand, so truthfully, I didn't know if she had a weapon. Thankfully, one of the other door screeners had come over after hearing the threat and intervened. I don't really know what she did because I was on my way to get the security officer at that point. I brought him down and told him what they said, but he told me there was nothing he could do about it because he hadn't heard it. So it was essentially my word against hers. And the customer's always right, don't you know? They ended up both being able to go up to see their mom. I don't know how because I was in the security office writing up my statement. This is one of 2 times I wrote up a statement during the 2 summers I worked there. I remember eating my lunch in the basement that day and thinking, someone who threatened to end my life is still roaming around in here. They came back the next few days to visit again, and we didn't have any issues. But I was, unfortunately, the person who had to screen them a couple of those days. Every time I saw them walk through the door, I started shaking. I'm sure I went pale. It's truly terrifying to have someone threaten your life and then have them be allowed to get what they want. In this situation, I understand her mother was injured, but I don't think that someone should be able to get away with threatening others and then not have any consequences. This event will truly stick with me forever. It was traumatizing. I'm shaking as I type. I don't know what else could have been done in this situation, but I'm still upset with the way it turned out, even though it's 4 years later. I have lots of stories from being a door screener, some funny, some creepy. Being a door screener taught me a lot about respecting others and giving them some grace. I think we should just all be kind. If this doesn't make it on the air, I feel better typing all of my story out. Thanks for reading, Anonymous. P.S. When I have a chance, I might write in my brush with true crime story from high school where I was in a car with a murderer's cousin, unknowingly.
Oh, man, Anonymous, what a draining job is right.
People were...
don't envy anyone that had to be in that position. Everybody was pissed off. And you definitely saw more than most just how pissed off everybody was.
Mm-hmm. Literal
thousands of
like,
people a day. I also would agree that if someone threatened an employee there, that they shouldn't be allowed to get in that place, even if their mom is upstairs. And especially your mom is in there because she got shot. And then you're like, I'm going to shoot you if I don't get to get up there. So
yeah.
That's interesting. But I would feel like I was betrayed a bit by my employer if they just were like, all right. And then I'm just eating lunch in the basement. Like, well, the person just threatened to kill me is just walking around somewhere.
Mm-hmm. That's such a disturbing feeling to think too. Like she just has free reign of the building because I guess the security officer didn't hear it. My thing is like, well, I heard it and the other employee heard it such that they came and walked over. So there's really like not a question, but yeah, at that time, everybody was just super heightened, especially with like the rules changing. That had to be so hard for the screeners that are like, well, yesterday you said I didn't need it. Now I do. And it's like, man, they pay me $8 an hour to do this. Like, I'm just trying to scan your face. Like, come on, I'm a college kid.
Right. I'd rather be back at school right now. I don't even want to be here. Nobody does. But yeah, that was a very rough time. And, kudos to you for taking on what could have been maybe the hardest job you could have had.
Yeah, to be like,
during that time.
I'll work at the hospital. You're like, what, it's an easy gig? No, I don't think you thought that, but that is something that you think, well, I didn't expect all this, but I've definitely learned something. But you do learn, and I think everybody in the whole entire world, at least, I don't care if it's for 1 week or 1 month, has to work some job where they interact with the public. That's what a friend of ours went to go work for Raising Cane's corporate, like in their corporate office. And part of their pre-training, they have you go and work at the store and like serve customers and learn the line and everything. Because I think if you are younger and you work in some like customer service job, you always remember how people treated you. And I hope for most of us, we carry that with us and think, the server's trying their best. They didn't mess my food up, whatever. But people that never have that experience and just shit all over service workers or frontline workers like this, I'm like, like she said, I get it. Your mom has been shot, but making a specific threat like that and going off the handle, flying off the handle. And I guarantee that I'm going to shoot you was only the worst, most violent of the people who were shitty to my dear Anonymous here. So I like Anonymous's advice that we should all just be kind.
I agree. I would also say you clearly are still traumatized by this. You said as much, and it's 4 years later. So, we're always huge proponents of therapy, but something like this is very traumatizing and it sticks with you and it stays in your body. And what a traumatizing time the pandemic and everything was, period. Then you have something like this on top of it. So make sure, Anonymous, that you're taking care of yourself. And, if you need to go talk to somebody about all the stuff you witnessed just in that job, but then also something like this, it is very traumatizing, make sure that you do that because we always want all of you all to be happy and healthy.
For sure. And you said it was 4 years ago, Anonymous. And I know whenever my freshman year of college got sidetracked by Hurricane Katrina and the experiences I had. And for more than 4 years, probably 10 years or more after that, I was just like, well, that was a weird thing. And it really wasn't until I started like writing about it, unpacking of like, oh, these things happened to me. This affected me. When this certain thing happens, I get nervous or I get a stomach ache. And that is a response from going through something massive. Like we all went through the pandemic. And I think depending on, like, you had a baby during it, you know, we all had different life experiences. So recognizing that, and yeah, especially if it still affects you, that's something to take care of for sure. I hope this is a first step, getting it out on paper.
Yes, thank you for sending it in and sharing it with us.
Well, the time has come. I'm so excited to get to.
I will say I've heard this story many times before, and it's never changed. So that's usually a good sign that it really happened the way
I love it.
The person remembers it.
Well, I hope I do it justice. This next one is from everybody's favorite father-in-law, George Brown. And the subject line is Blondie's looking for a bathroom break. In content warning, this has a brief mention of suicide. I wanted to send in this story of what happened to me at one of the apartments I moved into. I'd just been promoted to a maintenance supervisor position at a community where I lived and worked. I'd been living in an apartment toward the middle of the community, and with the promotion, moved to a larger apartment towards the front of the community, above my assistant maintenance tech, Tony. Once I got settled into the new apartment, I noticed during the early mornings, between 2 and 4, I would hear footsteps that seemed to be in the apartment. After getting up and inspecting the place, I would never notice or see anything out of the ordinary and figured maybe I was hearing the neighbors walking around next door. One night, while my girlfriend and I were asleep, I was woken by the footsteps again, but at this point, I didn't think anything of it. This didn't happen every night, so I just chalked it up to it being the neighbors who sometimes kept early hours. Sleepy and tired, I got up to use the restroom. I turned to enter the bathroom and saw a female standing at the toilet. I said, "Oh, sorry," and backed up, thinking my girlfriend must have gone before me. Again, I was tired and half asleep. I waited for a while, thinking about how she was taking a long time. I then looked over to the bed and noticed my girlfriend was still asleep. I thought to myself, I'm so tired, I'm seeing things. I went into the restroom. Of course, I looked behind the shower curtain. I'm not crazy. Determined it was all clear and nothing was out of the ordinary. I finished up and went back to bed. Once in the bed and ready to fall back asleep, I was lying on my back thinking about what had happened. At that moment, I saw a woman with long blonde hair wearing a nightgown move from the bathroom and out the bedroom door. I jumped up to go look and thinking, what the fuck? I went out and looked around, checked all the doors and the windows in the apartment, all secured. I again thought I was seeing things because I was so tired. The next morning, I was leaving my apartment to go down on the outside stairs as my assistant maintenance man, Tony, was coming out his door at the same time, yawning. I said, "You didn't sleep well either?" And he said, "No, I was awakened by footsteps." I said, "Yeah, probably mine," and laughed. Tony said, "Sounded like they were in my apartment." Then he said something that made my hair stand up. "I also think I seen something." My eyes went wide and I said, "Do not say anything more. Let's go to the office." So we both went to the office. I went to my manager and said, "Tony and I didn't sleep very well, and we both need to tell you our story, but individually. I want to know if we were woken by the same thing." So Tony went first and went in and told her what he had seen that woke him up. I then went in after him to tell my story. Our manager went pale and said, "Oh my, you've both seen the same thing. So around the same time that morning, you both seen the apparitions." Our manager said that she wanted to do some research to see if anyone had died at the complex in the past that could possibly explain this apparition. She reached out to the owner of the community and found out that in the building behind mine, a woman completed suicide. She was found in her bathroom wearing her nightgown, and she had long hair, and it was blonde. We felt this confirmed we really had something that was roaming our building. It was not too long after this, I was offered a new job with more pay. Took the new job and moved out. I assume Blondie is still looking to find her way out of the bathrooms at that community.
Well, like I said, I've heard this story many times, and what really takes it to the next level is Tony corroborating. And then what I love about my father-in-law is not being like, what? What'd you see? He's like, say less. We're going to a third party so we can get an unbiased person to mediate this, to prove that we actually saw something.
This is why we're bringing George Brown on our next Ghost Guild adventure, because I love the scientific, like, we have to have a control. Like, we can't mess each other up with what we see. We got to go find a neutral third party. But you're right. It's so funny. When I was reading through these, like, before air, I was like, didn't we cover this on the air before? And you're right. It's because he told us, I think on tour or like at the restaurant. I think it was
at the restaurant.
It was at the original restaurant. And so he'd only send the first two. So I was like, because when he was telling me this story, that makes sense. I think it was at Meso Maya before we saw Tool, those many years ago. But I remember envisioning it at this old apartment I used to live at in Carrollton, just because of like, you know, your brain like plugs it in. And so when I was rereading this, I was like, no, I know this story. And then I was like, oh yeah, duh. But you're right. It's very consistent. Nothing has changed. So that is, it's such an eerie feeling though, especially just going, oh, you know, it's like up late. It's just my girlfriend in there. No, she's in the bed.
Yikes.
Yeah, what a feeling, dude.
It's a three-parter, because you got it, and then you got Tony corroborating it, and then you've got the boss being like, a past resident did take her own life in that building, and she matches the description. So all of it is very strange and unexplained, and George moved on to bigger and better things, and I hope the apparition that was roaming has also found peace.
Yes, head toward the light for sure. Because that's, you know, it's sad if you think about a spirit just sort of roaming or almost like lost or confused and like, why are there people in my house? I'm always like, I hope you go find peace somewhere else. Sinisterhood will be right back. Well, this last one is from Katie. And the subject line is Cosmic Synchronicities with a Kraken. Hello, ladies. I'm a huge fan of the pod and all that you do to tell stories with grace and humor. I work from home and love listening to you both keep my brain entertained while I trudge through the monotony of desk life. I hope that you'll make it to Baltimore one day so I can enjoy a live show, as it sounds like an absolute hoot. I've been enjoying your Freaky Friday episodes for some time, but this week I had to write in with my own, and you with the inspiration. Quick backstory. I was an only child born in England to a British mom and a dad who was in the U.S. Air Force, stationed in England at the time. I've been living in the U.S. since I was 6 years old, but we made lots of trips back to the U.K. when I was younger to visit family, especially my nan and granddad. I currently live in a small town on the eastern shore of Maryland with my husband and toddler son, and my mom, thankfully, lives 5 minutes away, which makes for wonderful built-in childcare. I love that my mom and son have such a close relationship. He calls her Nanny, as I have fond memories of my relationship with my nan and granddad. My grandparents have been gone from this earth for more than a decade, but I still feel like they're with me sometimes, which brings me comfort. I know they would get an absolute kick out of my silly son. When I was young, we would often stay at my nan and granddad's house when we went home for a visit. I had a tiny little bedroom there that resembled the size of an average American walk-in closet. Everything might be bigger in Texas, but everything is definitely smaller in the UK. Each morning when I woke up and stumbled bleary-eyed out into the living room, my granddad would be in his chair and exclaim, "Ah, the Kraken awakes!" with a playful grin. As a sensitive young child, I didn't really like being compared to a mythical sea creature and would gripe and moan about it. 45-year-old me is absolutely embracing her sea witch era, but that's maturity for you. I know that it was just a playful tease that came from a place of love, and over the years, I became fond of these morning moments. Earlier this week, my son was calling another boy at the library a cheeky kid in a playful way. My mom took a video and texted it to me, and asked where I thought he heard it, as she doesn't think it came from her. I figured it might be a Bluey reference. We're hardcore Bluey fans over here. But I wasn't sure. I told my mom maybe Nan and Granddad have been to visit him, because it sounds like something one of them would say. I then said, if he starts asking me, "Mommy, what's a Kraken?" in the mornings, I'll know. This was late Tuesday night, right before I went to sleep. Imagine my surprise the next day when I saw that less than 2 hours after I sent my mom that text, You released your 300th episode titled The Kraken. That's not something that comes up every day, at least not in my world, though I am going to have to look for that children's book at the library. I definitely think the universe aligned in a cosmic synchronicity to show me that my Nan and Granddad are in fact always with me. So thank you for delivering that message. I appreciate your time reading this and have enclosed a pic of my sweet boy from a recent visit to my mom's for tea time. Don't worry, his was just milk, where he was using my favorite mug that my Nan had given to me as a little girl. The mug played a little song when you picked it up, and somehow, 40 years later, it still does. It's fun to keep a little bit of his quarter Brit heritage alive. Thanks for all that you do. Keep being your wonderful selves. Love, Katie.
Well, first of all, your little boy, oh my goodness gracious.
If I heard that kid say I was a cheeky monkey or a cheeky boy or a cheeky girl, I would lose. I'd pass out. He's so cute. He's so cute.
Oh my gosh, his hair, beautiful, just like white blonde curls. Oh man, people pay a lot of money for hair like that. And I'm always like, how do we get the hair back that we had when we were like 3 years old? But it's pure hair that hasn't been touched. That's why it's so beautiful. But he is so sweet. And that's a very cute cup. And I love that I love that your mom and him have tea time. What a fun little tradition. And also keeping the British part of him alive. Definitely celebrate that part of his heritage.
Yeah, I love that. I love when we're thinking about somebody that we miss really bad that's not here anymore. And you're like, I just kind of want to sign in whatever way you want to take it. But it's like, oh, my favorite, I'm going to go out on a limb. My favorite podcast released an episode today. And then you look and you're like, oh, what the fuck? Kraken?
Yeah.
Like, come on. So I'm glad we were just inspired. The kids love the Kraken.
Mm-hmm.
We were like, oh, that's a fun 300th episode. So whatever cosmic inspiration like pushed us to do that, we're glad the message was received.
Yes. Thank you, Nan and Granddad, for saying hello via our episode.
Yeah,
and thank you, Katie, for sending in this adorable little picture. We won't share it on socials because he's a little babe. But at first I thought the mug had Snow White, but upon further inspection, it looks like it might just be
like a singer,
like a woman in the Swiss Alps type vibe.
Yeah,
that maybe plays a little tune. I love stuff like that.
Maybe I'll crop it way down and just show the mug. Because maybe some people from the UK back in the day will be like, oh my God, I had that mug.
Oh yeah, that'd be cool. Maybe it's from a show from back then. But yeah, he's adorable and the story is adorable too. Yeah. And I hope that he does one day come out and go, the Kraken awakes when you walk into the living room and he's just sitting there in the chair.
Because like I said, I just want to see this cute child say something like that. The Kraken awakes. Well, the Kraken has been released. And like you said, thanks Nan and Granddad for that. And thank you, Katie, for sharing that and letting us share it with everybody.
Yes. Thank you to everybody for sending in your Freaky Friday stories. If you have an odd but true story, maybe you've encountered Bigfoot, you've seen a UFO, you had a brush with true crime, or you felt the presence of an otherworldly being, send them in at sinisterhood.com/Freaky Friday. If you like our free episodes, you'll love our Patreon bonus content. You can join for free to see what we're up to next, or dive into over 900 hours of various segments like Judge Christie, Dear Sinister, True Crime Headlines, ton of Reddit stuff, Am I the Asshole, Unpopular Opinions. So much fun stuff.
Oh, yeah. And stuff that listeners submit, too. So when you join, you can send in your grievances to Judge Christie or share your unpopular opinions or get advice with Dear Sinister. You also get ad-free episodes, monthly live streams, quarterly bonus content, weekly audio bonuses like we just said, monthly mini-episodes, merch discounts, hey, and a community of the best listeners on the whole entire internet.
And if you want to join for a week just to check out the perks, you can do so for free. And as long as you cancel before the trial's over, you do not get charged. Or maybe you love what you see and you stick around. We had a lot of new people at our Q&A that we had just last night. And I think a lot of people like to do the free trials when it's like, there's a mini-sode coming out or there's a Q&A or a live stream. So they can kind of, I'd join at the highest level and get all the stuff I could and then, go from there. So a lot of people are doing that. So check it on out if it sounds of interest to you.
For sure. And head over to Sinisterhood.com and click shop on the top banner to check out all of our merch like t-shirts, mugs, totes, stickers, and even clothes for your kiddos. And there is a clearance section as well, so don't miss that. And be sure to use your Patreon discounts. You can follow us on Instagram and Threads at Sinisterhood Pod. Like us on Facebook at Sinisterhood. Watch full video versions, including the video version of episode 300 with the Kraken and our junior researchers is now live on YouTube.
I have to give a shout out to you because I didn't want them on camera. So you made a very cute picture of them in their little junior researcher uniforms with their name tags. And it's very cute. So thank you very much.
I like those little characters. I might have started drawing other stuff with them. I'm just going to say that.
I love it.
I'll show you later.
Adorable.
But you can check out the full video version on YouTube or ad-free on Patreon. And clips from the show are available on TikTok. If you want us to make a video just specially for you, we're available to do that via Cameo. Go to cameo.com and let us know what you want your video to be. Is it a shout out for yourself? Is it a gift for someone you love? Whatever it is, let us know. And we would love to deliver that message. Just the two of us or with McGruff, Fuckmouth Moon, the Corn Skull, whatever menagerie object you want us to include, we absolutely would love to.
Yeah.
And if you don't know what Fuckmouth Moon is, why are you not watching on YouTube? It's right over my shoulder. It's a disturbing ceramic moon that sits. My favorite is that lady that stumbled on us who'd never heard of it. Just some rando on YouTube's like, why does that woman have a devil over her shoulder? I'm like, well, that's called Sir Garthur Brooks. I'll have you fucking know. And he's a fucking, he's royalty, first of all. He's a legend.
Yeah. He's a hero. Just because he's not wearing a cape doesn't mean he isn't. And also, that's a fuckmouth moon, and then that's a jackalope. And I stare at it multiple times a week.
And she's just fine. And she's fine. So go to cameo.com and order your custom video shout out now. And Christy, where can people find you on the World Wide Web?
I am on Instagram and Threads at Christy M. Wallace, and TikTok, where I am reposting everything Kamala Harris at Christy or GTFO.
Yeah, dude. Heather versus the world on all platforms to get my dank Olympics memes and Kamala memes.
Yeah. I'm hitting it hard. I'm like, fuck it. I don't care. I refuse to live in a world where that man is the president again. So unfollow me if you don't like it, but I'm doing what I can to spread the word.
To quote my leader, if I lose fans because I don't support a xenophobic, homophobic, racist, then I lose fans. It is what it is. So
who's your leader?
Taylor Swift.
Oh, yes. She said that. Yes, you're right. Yeah. Forgot.
So,
yeah. I'm so sorry. Mother.
She's all of our leaders.
I'm sorry, Mother.
You're the one that argued for this when we were on Bravo Breakdowns and they gave you a 1 minute essay.
I still think when they decide to make themselves known because they already live amongst us, say, take me to your leader. I'm going to be like, she's in Munich or wherever the fuck she is right now.
They're like, we understand that your president is Kamala Harris. Where can we? We're like, that's not our leader. Her name is Taylor Swift. Taylor.
And our co-leader is her husband, because I'm going to manifest that, Travis Kelce. And they're like, oh, we know Travis. Oh, and his brother Jason. Boy,
there's a video on SportsCenter where Travis goes to a spa and they massage him. We've seen that all over the galaxy.
We're all Chiefs fans down there. Down there is the ocean.
No, ocean. Well, I hope this is just, I don't know. Anyway, that's the end of the show.
As always, the devil rules the airwaves.
Keep it creepy. Sinisterhood.